Hello YouTube. This is part 4 of going through the ISEE, which has examples similar to the SHSAT. So we're just going to continue on where we left off the last time. I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I do a lot of tutoring in New York City on specialized tests. So contact me if you need any help. So in all the other parts, we talked about a whole bunch of number of things. So I'm just going to jump into the actual questions right away. All right, let me make sure this is live. Yeah, and let me shrink this down. I don't think the question's showing all together. It's not. It's failed already. All right, let me 1 second to bring the file up. All right, give me 1 second. All right, it's showing for me here, and let me shrink it back down. And let me try to get on your guys' screen. All right, there we go. All right, so the first question is kind of more like a grade 8 state question, state test question, where it's just asking for the mean of this data set. So let me bring up my phone here too as well. Let's see, where is that? So we'll stick that here for now. So this one's simple enough. What we have to do is get 7.5 plus 4 plus 6 plus 9 plus 10 plus, is that 7.5? Okay, so we're going to get, that's 10, that's 19, so these two would get us 29, and we have 15, put the 7.5 by 7.5. 15, 4, 1, we can get 2, 3, 44. So we have 44. If I did that right, let me divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, divided by 6. 6 times 7 is 42. Rename there 2.0. 6 goes into here 3 times. Let's see, I must have made a mistake right. That's 19. Let me check the numbers again. 7.5, 4, 6, 9, 10, and 8. The last number was 8. So we're at 45. 6 goes into 45. Get 42 again, that's 7. Get 3 left over. We get 7.5, which is A. Okay, the next question is really a lot more trickier. Let me get a new piece of paper for that. Try to work this out. Try to work this one out yourself. Pause the video because it's kind of tricky. So we have a set of 7 numbers. and we're going to get the average of the set of number is 9. So normally just doing what we did the example before, the average is equal to the sum of the numbers over the number of numbers. Okay? So we have a set of 7 numbers over 7 equals 9. So that must mean the total of the 7 numbers, if we multiply both sides by 7 here, the sum of the 7 is 63. Okay? Taking it one step at a time, each sentence one at a time. So what additional number must be included in the set to create a new set with a mean that is 3 less than the original mean? Okay, the original mean was 9. So if we're going to take 3 away, we're looking for a mean now is 6. So this introduces an 8th number. So basically we have this set of 7 plus some number, let's call it x, over 8. Now since we have 6 here and it's 8, we're looking for 48. So if you subtract these two numbers, the 63 minus the 48, 5, 1, what do we get there? 3, 5, we get 15. And it's going to be minus 15, because the new mean is smaller than the other one. So basically, instead of 63 minus 48, we had 48 minus 63. So that's our answer. And if we feed it back in, we have the set of 7 plus the x over 8. So the set of 7 was 63 plus the minus 15 over 8. So we know this is 48, and 48 over 8 is 6. Let me just make sure this is live. Okay, 3 is also very complicated as well. I get another piece of paper for that. So we're going to take it one step at a time. We're going to solve it algebraically. We can also solve it by brute force. How about we try the brute force way first, and then see if the algebraic way double checks. That way we have 2 ways of doing it. So we have 2, 3, 4, 6. There's really no great insight you can get out of here with the ABCD answers. So you kind of have to guess. In cases like this, it's often better than working with the midpoint numbers. So you should probably avoid, in this case, the 2 with the 6, even though those might be the answer. If you notice on the ISEE, they often put the answers in numerical order. Okay, on the SHSAT, that's not the case. But the SHSAT also sometimes ranges it like this. So let's just avoid the extremes for now. The answer could be 2 and the answer could be 6. Let's work with the midpoint numbers, and if something seems too high, we go down. If something seems too low, we go up. So that leaves us to either use 3 or 4. So let's try to brute force it with 4. Okay, so the question is, how many quarters does Bill have? So 4 would be the number of quarters. Okay. If Bill has 10 coins, that means he has 6 is the number of dimes. All right? So the question says, Bill has 10 coins, all of which are dimes and quarters. So that accommodates that. If we're using, which is quarters, we have 10 minus 4 is 6, okay? If his dimes are quarters and the quarters were dimes, his coins would total 30 cents more. How many quarters does Bill have? All right, so what are they talking about? If his dimes were quarters and his quarters were dimes. So normally dimes were 10 cents and the quarters were 25 cents. They're saying if his dimes were worth 25 cents and his quarters were worth 10 cents. If he flipped the numbers would he end up having 30 cents more if we use 4 quarters? All right? So normally 4 quarters is $1, and normally 6 dimes is 60 cents. So that would be $1.60. Okay? This is normal. Under the rules on the question, I'm going to put RQ here. That's going to flip. So 4 quarters will be worth 40 cents. Okay? And 6 dimes, which would be worth 25 cents each, would be $1.50. So that turns out to be $190 cents. And then it says that when you do that, the difference of these is 30, and that turns out to be the case. So it turns out I used the choice that worked out the first shot. Okay, again, if it was slightly different, you had to analyze the numbers and see really how much the difference was. If you used 2 and it turned out to be that great, because quarters are worth so much more than dimes and vice versa, you would just have to choose the other numbers and figure out which way to go. I mean, if you chose 2, you'd have to go up. The question is, do you go to 3 or go to 4? So you need to make a slight judgment choice there and work from there. So let's solve this algebraically as well, just to prove that it works. So if D is dimes and Q represents quarters, let's just work that way from there. So the first sentence says he has 10 coins. So that means dimes plus quarters equals 10. All right? And then it says if his dimes were quarters and his quarters were dimes. So if his dimes were quarters, then we have 25-cent dimes plus 10% 10 quarters equals, and then it's going to be the normal thing and 30 cents more. So that's equal to 25 cents quarters plus 10-cent dimes. And then the question is, what do we do with the 30 here? Which side does it go on? So it's saying this, right, would total 30 cents more. So we need to add 30 over here to make them equal. All right? So let's take this algebraic line and collapse it down. Okay, so what we can do is subtract 10 quarters from both sides. So we get 25D. This cancels out, equals 15Q. And then if we take 10D away from here, minus 10D, that cancels out, minus 10D over here. So we get 15D equals 15Q plus 30. And if we subtract 15Q from both sides, we get 15D minus 15Q equals 30. Okay, if we bring back the original line here, let me rewrite it here. D plus Q equals 10. What we need to do is solve these two equations simultaneously. So what we're going to do is multiply the second equation on both sides. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other, by 15. Multiply this by 15 here. Multiply this by 15 here. So we get 15D plus 15Q equals 150. Okay? If we basically get rid of this line now we have this and this. If we draw a line under here and add them together, we have 15D plus 15D is 30D, minus 15Q plus 15Q is 0, so that cancels out, equals 180. Divide both sides by 30, and we get D equals 6. Okay, and that's our original thing up here when we started out with the brute force technique. But if you plug it back into the formula, if D was 6, then that's got to be 4. And we can feed it into the original equation we came up with as well. So this 6 dimes and 4 quarters and we had to plug it in over here. So we get 4 quarters and 6 times. It comes back to what we basically brute force it. We get $1.50 here plus 60. And we get $1.60 here plus the 30. And it brings us back to what we saw when we did the brute force technique. So this one's pretty tricky, and you really have to map the English into the two equations here. There are 2 original equations, and then solve for them simultaneously. And I multiplied the second one by 15 to bring them so that I could add the 2 equations together and get the 30D stuff, and then just do the division. There's often a question like this on a lot of tests, maybe the SAT, the SHSAT, the PSAT, the ISEE, the SSAT. A lot of these tests have a question similar to this. Also the Hunter College High School test as well. If you know this technique and you do this mapping capability, you'll be better off. And of course, it gave numbers here. I'm going to highlight this blue here. If it gave different numbers, then you'd have to do something else. This is just normal U.S. currency, so you have to go with that. And I've noticed a problem here, which is that this was not showing all the time. That's the brute force technique. Right there when we do our mappings. This is the 2 equations that I circled here that we initially come up with when we map the two English sentences. Okay. And then here's actually just solving it all once we get all that done. Okay, question number 4 is a mediocre one. Remember, too, they're also trying to get you to demonstrate that you have knowledge of these different ways to do things. Okay. So the 7 same-sized cups filled with water, which will be used for watering plants. Fred uses 1/3 of each cup of water. Janice uses 1/4 of each cup of water. Approximately how many cups of water remain? So Fred is going to use 1/3, and Janice is going to be using 1/4. So if we add that together, 1/3 plus 1/4, you're going to have to do it in twelfths, right? So you get 4 twelfths plus 3 twelfths, and you get 7 twelfths. That's how much they used. So what remains is 5 twelfths. And they did that for 7 of them. They did that 7 times. So you got 35 twelfths, okay? And as you can see, that's almost 36 twelfths, and it's almost 3. The question asked approximately, so the answer will be A. Let me just make sure it's fitting on the screen. So I keep making that same error. All right, good. That looks like it's there. All right, we're on a roll. Question number 5. This one's easy enough. Depends how you split the screen up. Each kind of the darker lines, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4 across, and 3 down and get 12. And you have 1/12, or you can count all the little squares and get 1, 2, 3 by 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8 by 24, and end up getting 2 24ths and still getting 1/12. So if you have 1/12 of 96, right, you're going to get 8. So that one's pretty much a straightforward one. Same for 6. What's closest the square root of 150? Well, 10 times 10 is 100. So that's the best one so far. 12 times 12 is 144, so that's pretty close. 20 times 20 is already 400. And these are numerical order, so 75 times 75 is just going to be too large. So the answer would end up being 12. Okay. Number 7. Let me move this out of the way so 7 can be seen. So it says we have two figures. One has a volume of 8. They're both cubes. So that means the length of their sides are all the same. So the volume of a cube is side times side times side. Length times width times height. In this case, since it's a cube, they're all the same. So basically you have side times side times side for both of them. So basically, what is the cube root of 8 and what is the cube root of 64 is what we have to resolve. So normally we write this as square root. When we put the number here, it means the x root. So the cubed root of 8 is 2. We can double check that. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, right? And we also have the cube root of 64. So what times what times what is going to be 64? It's going to be 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So the ratio between the two of these is 2/4. And if you simplify that, that's 1/2. And so it's asking, it's specifically asking the ratio from figure 1 to figure 2, not from figure 2 to figure 1. So the mapping we just reduced is 1 to 2. You can also write this like this. This colon is set as TO. So it ends up the answer is D. Okay? Hello? Okay, we have a currency conversion one. There's a lot of unit conversions that happen on the SHSAT, as well as all the other tests as well. All right, let me move this one to be better displayed. So we're basically going to start out and we'll try to make conversions between all of these. 4 coins is equal to 2 stamps. Okay? And 3 chips is equal to 2 coins. So that's what our givens are. So they're asking us, if Joey pays his friend 12 chips, how many stamps is this payment worth? So what we need to do is try to make all these equivalent somehow. We notice here that if we multiply this whole line by 2, we get 2 coins equals 4 stamps. And we can write that all together now because this and this match up. So we can write 3 chips equals 2 coins equals 4 stamps. Okay? And it's telling us that he's going to pay with 12 chips. So we notice there's a multiplication of 3, so that means it's 8 coins. And it's equal to 9 stamps. Did I do that right? 3 times 4 times 4. No, wait, it's going to be 16 stamps, right? So the answer would be D. Yeah, 16, right. Yeah, I'm flipping between screens, so I can't always see you guys' comments right away. Sometimes the what I'm showing here is not on the screen, so just keep me on track with that, because it's hard to. I'm flipping between a whole bunch of different windows. Probably need to get a second screen here. So again, my name is Greg. I'm from GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. I'm a private tutor in New York City. I tutor through all the different boroughs. This YouTube got off to a slow start, but I'm just going to start pumping out some of the answers now. So this is a graphing one. This doesn't traditionally show up on the SHSAT as much, but it is on a lot of the other tests. And since it's grade 7 and grade 8 material, there's no reason that it kind of shouldn't. Maybe with a twist. A lot of people don't know what a scatter plot is. So we have a line of best fit here, this is called. If you look at the what they're showing here, it says the graph shows the relationship between the number of items ordered and the total cost of the order. So the numbers across the bottom from the 10 to 100, they represent the number of items ordered. Okay, along the left-hand side, we have the total cost of the product. Okay, so it says using the line of best fit. Okay, this is called the scatter plot. All these dots are some recorded data that was made of the number of items ordered versus the cost of it. And they created a line of best fit, which is basically a smoothing of all the data so that it makes some sort of averaging of all the pricing and the number of items. So they're asking us what happens at line when it's 60 items. What would the answer be? Right, so this is pretty much interpreting a graph. So if we go to 60 on the bottom and go straight up to where it hits the line of best fit, it shows 450. So most kids are going to answer D, 450. But that's not the answer. It's for 60 items. So what you need to do is 60 divided by 4. 60 going into 450. And we can throw away these 2 zeros. So 60 into 45. We get, what, 7, 42. We end up with 3. And then it'll be 7.5. Okay? So the answer for 9 would be B. I think there's about, I'm trying to look at the different screens here. There seems to be about a minute delay here. I'm not sure. YouTube does so many different things each time. So again, we're trying to build up examples. All these examples are not up to SHSAT criteria, so to speak. But if we build up and kind of ace some of the simple stuff, we're not going to have a problem with some of the more advanced stuff. So if we work from there. So for instance, and by the way, something like this question number 10, even though it's really not up to what the SHSAT is asking for and doing normally, there are questions like this. For instance, if you look in the current student handbook, there is a simple question like this. So it's not too far-fetched. And so remember to keep all your fundamentals in check so that things are going okay, so that you can get it. You don't blow an answer like this. You know, a point is a point. So whatever you can do to get the point, get it. So we have 4x for a y minus 1 equals 7. So what we have to do is solve for this. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. We're going to 4y equals 8. Divide both sides by 4 and get y equals 2. I'm going to double check that that's right. So that's 8 minus 1 is 7. Yep, that works. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other equation. Let me just make sure this is showing on the screen. Yeah, it is. Actually, I don't think the question is showing on the machine. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. And then now that we know what y is, when we go to the second equation, 8y minus 2 equals x, let's say, we just replace it. So we have 8 times 2 minus 2. So we get 16 minus 2, and we get 14, which is B. And we can plug that back in. Well, it's obvious because it's what it was. 16 minus 2 is 14, right? Or why did I say B? I mean C. It's C. 14 is C. Right. If you have any questions about them solving these two, some of these are simpler than some other normal problems, so we're not going to go too deep on them. So I'm going to try to kind of match the explanation to the problem itself. All right. The next one is not too hard of a problem, but a lot of kids get it wrong because it's more of an intuition problem than a mathematical one. Because I think a lot of people, you could ask them, what is 150% of 42% of 42, and you might get the right answer to that. But that's not really what the question is asking here. So the population of 42 fruit flies has increased by 150%. So to kind of see what I'm talking about, if it was 42%, and let's say it increased by 50%, that's 50 over 100, right? So it's basically half. So it'd be 21. So what they're asking is, what is the total number of fruit flies? You would add this and this, and you would get 63. So on the same note, if it increased by 100%, that would be 42. So again, you would add these together and get 84. So now if it increased 150%, you would get 63, I believe, right? If you do the multiplication out, or if you just view this as, this here is 1.5, so 42 plus itself plus half of itself. So 42 plus 21 basically is 63. So they're asking what the total is. You would add the two of these together and get 105. Because I think if it was asked straight out, if you don't view it in this progression, and I'm not saying you have to solve it this way, but if you don't view it as this, that most kids would have probably done 63 as their answer. But the answer is C. What books do you recommend for 8th grade SHSAT? That's a hard question. There's a lot of books, but they all seem to have one problem or another. Did this all show on the screen here? Probably. I don't think so. Some have straight out errors. Some also are made to be generic, where the companies are producing what I call cookie cutter books. So they might produce the same book for the SAT as they produce for the SSAT as they produce for the ISEE, and actually each test is slightly different. I'm using the ISEE to demonstrate some of the SHSAT questions, but I'm being upfront about it, and I'm also saying which questions are not like it. I'm trying to build up fundamentals here, because eventually we're going to end up doing SHSAT problems. Not necessarily tonight, but which question are we doing? We just did number 11. That said, you know, the standard companies, Kaplan, Princeton Review, the standard ones that you're going to get, there's a top 5 or 6 of them. They're all going to have reasonable questions and reasonable answers. Again, most books, no matter how hard the publisher tries, they're going to end up with errors. There's also other smaller companies, tutoring centers in Manhattan, that produce their own books. They have some of the same problems, all right? But you have to kind of just deal with it and go with it. The main idea is to try to get the fundamental ideas down. Remember, the examples are only demonstrations of what the ideas should be. So you should be focusing on the subject, not necessarily questions. Although at the end of the day, you have to do questions. So it's a hard question. In other words, I haven't looked at this year's group of books yet, but with last year's, I found errors in all of them, sometimes in very simple problems. Yeah, the answer was C. All right, so let's, oh wait, sorry, let me bring it up on my screen. I'm trying to do this from memory. Yeah, the answer was C, 105. Okay, let's do number 12. I wish I had a better answer to that question. You just have to be rigorous in everything you're doing. I like to think there's multiple solutions to get more than one book. Not necessarily to solve every single problem, but often certain books or certain authors or even me versus another person doing live streams and so on, we all have our own little approaches and our own little ideas. And if you use multiple sources, you can kind of conglomerate and get a composite of them all. For instance, I know some of you might look at Tyler's live streams. He's using more advanced problems than I'm using right now. I'm starting lower than him. I'm going to work up to higher up. So there's a balance, and each way is not that one way is better than the other. They're just different, and the truth of the matter is they all work, and you should use them all together in conglomeration. So that's how I feel about it. All right, so let's jump into the next question. Linda's performing an experiment using a random number generator. For each trial, the computer selects a whole number from 1 to 10. What is the probability that the whole number selected on the first 2 trials are both greater than 4? So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it's saying that, so Linda's performing an experiment using a random number generator. For each trial, the computer selects a whole number from 1 to 10. What is the probability that the whole number selected on the first 2 trials are both greater than 4? So it's going to be this group here. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 choices, right? Because it's in this 4 that's not going to be considered. So it's saying what happens on the first 2 numbers. So on the first number, the choice is going to be 1 out of 6. No, sorry, did that wrong. It's going to be 6 out of 10. And on the second choice, because we still have the same thing, it's also going to be 6 out of 10. So we're going to get 36 out of 100. And if we divide both the top and the bottom by, because they're asking for simplifications, so divide the top and bottom by 4, we get 9 over 25, which should be B. Let me make sure this is fitting on the screen. Yes, it looks to be. So on something like this, when it's asking, when it has the and in there, basically what is the probability for both? In other words, the first choice and the second choice. When you have scenarios like that, you do multiplication. All right, so that one's pretty simple once you know the technique. 13, you will not see on the SHSAT. So it says the pattern can be folded into a polyhedron. Which of these results from that? If we notice the kind of hexagonal figure there with the 6 sides on the top and the bottom poking out, that's really what we want to look for. So A has a pentagon, B has a triangle, C seems to be the same pattern there, and just to double check, D has a square. So obviously the answer is C. That doesn't show up in the SHSAT, so we're not going to be as worried about that here. So 14, a teacher awards test points according to the pattern shown on the table before. By the way, please like, please subscribe, please share. Okay, a student scored 128 points. How many correct answers did he provide? So it's showing that there's some sort of pattern going here. The number of correct answers and the number of points. What is the relationship going on there? Normally, there's a pattern. Sometimes it's as simple as just multiplication by 2 or something. Sometimes it might be like 2 times minus 1. Sometimes it's a bunch of additions to do. So what is the pattern on this one? We're in 14. Right, on the previous question, you wouldn't add them. You would do multiplication. If it was or, you would add them. But since it's and, the first choice and the second choice, it's multiplication. So you're just basically mapping the English into operations. Does anybody notice what the pattern is between the number of correct answers and the number of points? If you can't see a mapping going left to right, try to look up and down. The PDF is mentioned in the description. I don't have a direct link because I think the site changes what the PDF is every year. But it tells you how to get to the PDF. By the way, one reason why I'm using this as examples is that the PDF doesn't show the answers. It gives the answer numbers, the answer letters, but it doesn't give descriptions for how to solve them. So I figured this would be good, kind of a good intermediate. Adding the previous number. Well, that's what's happening on the left-hand side. Well, you know, you shouldn't need to see the choices, but let me bring them up. Sorry about that. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to keep telling me about that. So what's the pattern? Sometimes the answers might clue you into what the pattern is, but you should also be able to figure it out just by looking at the table. So what might be going on here? Again, there's a lag here of about 30 seconds, so it may take about 30 seconds for it to show. All right, according to my thing, it's showing right now. So you have 7, 16, 32, and 64. So if you notice on the right-hand side, the pattern is that the numbers are doubling. 1 is 2, 2 is 4, 3 is 8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 8. There's another way to look at this, in that the left-hand column is 2 to the power of that thing. 2 to the 1 is 2. 2 to the 2 is 4, and 2 to the 3 is 8. But if it's just doubling on the other side, because as we go down each column, we're multiplying by 2 another time. So it's still 2 to the whatever. So the question is, what do we need to do to get on the left-hand side to be able to get up to 128? Because we're going to do 16, 32, 64, 128. So we're going to add 4 more of them. So the answer is going to end up being A7. Yeah, you can work backwards as well once you realize it's division by 2. If it's multiplication by 2 going forward, you do division by 2 going backwards. So the answer would be A. 2 to the 7th is 128. Or if we just double 4 more times, we end up getting 7 lines. So this one was slightly tricky. Patterns are usually a little, it's tricky backwards in the sense that patterns are normally more involved. So this pattern was simpler, so it turned out being trickier. And I don't like using the word tricky. I like to say it's more mathematically astute. Because I don't think they're necessarily out to trick you on purpose. They're just trying to prove whether you know the how to do things mathematically or not. Okay, 15 is not really a SHSAT style question. Let me try to. Yeah, the answers are showing there already. So what's basically the volume of that cube is what they're asking for. If each square is 1 cubic unit, what's the volume of that cube? You can't see that in the description either. You have A32, B48, C64, D96. That should all be showing on your screen. I have 3 screens up with it all showing. Or you can't see the answer you think it is. So what's the length, your width, and your height? You have 4 by 4 by 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. So right, the answer would be C. Okay, this one's kind of cute. It's almost distracting. I'll give you a hint. The answer's simpler than it looks. Any ideas? So we have a swim team buys, I like to take this a sentence at a time. A swim team buys sweatshirts for $12 each with an additional $5, 5% sales tax per shirt. The standard shipping fee is added to each order of sweatshirts. The table gives the total cost, including the shipping fee, for 4 different separate orders. The first line has one sweatshirt with the 5% and the $12 and the shipping fee is $16.60. 4 sweatshirts plus the 5% plus the shipping fee is $54.40, and the same for 2 and 3. They don't put it 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 4, 2, 3. So I guess this is representing orders as they come in live. Let's say, all right. So what does it turn out that the shipping charge per order might be? Oh, you can't see in the description? Wait 1 second. Let me double check that. Yeah, you're right. It's not there. All right, let me edit right now. That way, you can be looking at it. All right, just added its description. It might take YouTube a few seconds a minute or two to get it actually edited into there. Sorry about that. I did a copy and paste of some of the descriptions, but I ended up putting a different video between the 2 videos here. So I actually didn't copy the part 3 one. I copied it from that one that was not based on this one. Sorry about that. All right. All right, so you guys are getting B for this question. So what do we have? Let's see what we have. We have a sweatshirt is $12, 5% on top of that. So 5% of 12, we're going to get 60 of 100. So the tax is 60 cents. If we add that to the 12, we got 12.60. Okay, and we notice the price of one sweatshirt is $16.60. So that means the shipping must be $4. So let's double check it with another one. Let's just use the 4 one. So if we have 4 sweatshirts times 12, we get 48. Okay. We said it was 60 cents a sweatshirt, so we're going to get 240 for that, and $4 for the shipping. So was that 48, 10, 4, 54, 40? Yes, it is. Okay. All right. Let me make sure this is showing on the screen. No, it's not. Yeah, it more or less is. Um, it doesn't. There's a couple levels to the ISEE, or the IC people call it, just like the SAT versus the SHSAT. Depends how you say it. The ISEE is used for private schools, mainly, and there's like 5 levels to it. This is the grade 7 and grade 8 level. There's another level up they're going to start using after this one, which is closest to what the SHSAT is. So this is kind of middle questions that may or may not be on the SHSAT. The next level up is more closer to SHSAT questions. And then, by the way, on the next level up, those questions are going to be SHSAT and harder. So they might be similar to like grade 8 and grade 9 SHSAT questions mixed together. Okay. By the way, the ISEE is used in the Boston exam schools. Boston has some specialized high schools as well. Boston Latin, there's 2 Boston Latins, and the O'Dord's School, I believe the name of it is. Michael O'Dord or something like that, I forget the name. So they use the ISEE plus their average to get into their specialized high schools. They have 3 of them. But normally the ISEE is used to the whole country. In fact, the ISEE is used to the whole world. But it's analogous. There's enough questions. I'm just using something that's kind of parallel to it. That's why the title of this is SHSAT-like. So it's not exactly the SHSAT. There's also other parts to it that I don't know if we're going to get to tonight that have a format that's different than that. All right, I got notices popping up here too. I should have turned them off before I started this. All right. So 17. Let me get that to show. You know what? I can move this slightly over more to give us more space. Let's do that so we can get more space when I write the stuff. On Monday, 1 student tells a secret to 3 other people. On Tuesday, each of those 3 friends tells the secret to 3 different other people, who in turn tell the secret to 3 different people. The secret is repeated in the same pattern until Sunday. Which expression represents the number of people who will know the secret by the end of the day on Sunday? So this is the kind of problem. It's nice that they gave the answers, so you can kind of map the English sentences into the answer choices. So what do you guys think the answer might be there? Yeah, I'm going to try to stream tomorrow morning. Some of the ones we don't finish right now. I think I have the time set up at 9:15, so it might probably from 9:15 to 9:30. Because I want to get some of these examples over with and done with, and shown to some of you guys, so that you can start moving on to some more advanced stuff. Right. So this is really mapping logic into your thought process and seeing which of these make sense. And if you can cover the answers and you can't give a direct answer, then uncover the answers and just kind of think them through logically. In other words, could it be A? Could it be B? Could it be C? Could it be D? And one of the answers should leap out at you guys. So you both said C. All right, let me bring it up on my screen. All right, the difference between C and D is that 1 plus, if I'm reading this right, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, if the answer is D, then what happened to the original person? Because the question is, which expression represents all the number of people who will know the secret? Right? It says on Monday, a student tells the secret. So it includes D as well. So it's good you can rule out A and B, because A and B just have no place in the story. C makes sense, and then you realize, oh, includes the original person. All right? This comes up sometimes, especially maybe on the Hunter College high school test. This might come up if anybody's considering taking that test. That kind of issue comes up. where you have to remember to add that original person in. The SHSAT normally doesn't have a question like this, although sometimes it uses ones where you have this kind of exponential thing. So you have to remember to add that in. So that's the gotchas with these. Again, you might say it's a trick. I don't think it's a trick. I think it's just making use of clear and conciseness of the question into mapping it into mathematically correct nomenclature. So, but it's kind of a thing that's why you're practicing, because some of this is not natural for all of us, myself included. I make mistakes on these kind of things often too. All right, let's try to go to the next one, 17. Okay, 18. I'm going to try to reduce this. Sometimes when I do this, this will fail. Okay, so which function? Let me just make sure it's showing for you guys. No, it's not completely. Let me move this out of the way. Whoops. Okay, for which function does the y value increase at the greatest rate of the x value as the x value increases? Now, some of you may not have done coordinates or slope or things like that, which, by the way, is going to be on the SHSAT, especially if you're taking the grade 9 SHSAT. It will definitely be there. In the event, enough of you should know about what the x and y coordinates are happening and what they're doing anyway, even if it wasn't taught in your classes yet. Wait a second, I just lost my pen. So which of these seems to map into the y value increasing faster as the x value increases? Yeah, a lot of classes did it, but it turns out a lot of grades haven't done it yet. Even in 8th grade, there's a lot of 8th schools that just don't do it. I don't understand that. But so which answer seems to really map there? And again, part of the thing of what the SHSAT is testing you is that that you can not only have you understood what you learned in class, but that you're trying to apply what you're learning. Okay, so even if you can't do this mathematically, you should be able to make sense of it logically. So Lisa says D. What about you, Abbas? Abbas says C. Yeah, the answer is C. First of all, A and B are definitely ruled out because as x increases, y is decreasing. So in both C and D, as x increases, y increases. So the question is, if we go back to the actual question, it says, for which function does the y value increase at the greater rate as the x value increases? So if you look at C, if x moves 1, y moved up by 3. But if we look at D, as x increases by 1, y only moves up by 1. So it turns out that C, y increases faster for every increase of x. So the answer would be C there. Okay. We could also, if we wanted to, we can figure out what the slope of the line is. For A and B, the slope will be negative, and for C and D, the slope will be positive. And the slope for C will be 3, and the slope for D will just be 1. So that means C, because it's 3, is the largest, so it's moving the fastest. Okay? Yes, they're both moving, but for every x on D, y only moves 1. But for every one on choice C, y moves by 3. So it's moving faster. It's going straighter up, so to speak. Where it's the more vertical the line is, the faster the y is increasing. Because we can take the direction it's going between C and D and bend it even more to try to be horizontal. But that would mean for every x, y would barely be moving the closer it got to being horizontal. So as it gets more to be more vertical, for every x, the faster y moves. Uh, yeah, you do because it might be on the grade 8 SHSAT or the grade 9 SHSAT. And the question may not be as simple as this. It might be a little more complicated. So this is just asking basically a fundamentals question about slope, really. So there could be a second part to it where you have to use this knowledge. They may not give you 4 graphs to compare. They might give you coordinates and say which has the greater slope or which one's moving faster, and you have to deduce it all. All right, you never know what they're going to do with these questions. They can twist them into real cute kind of scenarios. Okay, so in 19, if you read the description here at the top, the ISEE formulates questions in a different style than the SHSAT does. There's no reason the SHSAT can't do this, but basically, if your answer is A, that means the number you got in column A is larger than the number in column B. If your answer is B, then the answer in column B is greater than the answer in column A. If your answer is C, it means column A and column B are equal. And if the answer is D, it means there's not enough information provided to solve it. All right, so we could spend a couple of minutes trying to understand what these questions are about, but it's easier just to skip to problem number 19 and just figure it out. So in other words, for 19, let's say the value of x when y is 15. Let's say that ends up being 0, and then it says the value of y for when x equals 4. Let's say that ends up being 99. Okay, that would mean column B is greater than 0, and therefore column B was the answer. If they were both 0, the answer would be C. If column A was 200 and column B was 99, then the answer would be A. And if it didn't give us enough information, like let's say because the formula had y and x in it, and they were asking us to compare z, well, we don't know anything about z, so in that case, the answer would be D. Okay, so this is just a different way of asking questions, where you're just comparing two values. So let's jump into this. What's the answer to this? Is it A is greater than B, B is greater than A, they're equal, or we can't figure it out? So we have y equals 4x minus 1. Oh, and let me bring this back on the screen then. So I think we removed it. So A is asking us, what is the value of x when y is 15? So we have 15 equals 4x minus 1. We add 1 to both sides. We get 16 equals 4x. And we get 4 equals x. Let's plug that back in. We get 16 minus 1 is 15 when y is 15. Okay, so 19 will give us 4 on the A column side. So let's try to solve it for what B is saying. B is saying y has a value when x is 4. So y equals 4x minus 1. If we replace it by 4, we get 4 times 4 minus 1. We get 16 minus 1, and we get 15. So y is 15 here. So we have 4 versus 15 is really what it's asking us to do. So our answer would be B, because this side is a higher number. All right, so you have to kind of get used to this style of questions. So I believe 20 is still on your screen. Yeah, it is. So Rosa received $1.48 in quarters, dimes, and pennies. And they're giving us specifics. A quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10 cents, and a penny is a penny, 1 cent. And they want us to compare 9, which is column B, with the smallest number of coins that Rosa could have received. So what's the least number of coins that Rosa could have received? Any ideas on that? These are little snippets of things. They're a little easier than SHSAT problems at this point. They're certainly not as involved. SHSAT normally has 3 and 4 steps, or at least 2 steps. These ones don't. So, by the way, guys, I'm a Brooklyn Tech graduate. My daughter went to Brooklyn Tech as well. It's a great school. All of them are great schools, to be honest with you. So, I went a long time ago, and my daughter just graduated a few years ago. So it's a great experience. I suggest it to anybody and everybody. It's a lot of hard work, though. So there you go. All right, so let me bring this problem up. I don't have it on my screen anymore. So the strategy on this problem is to use the largest coin first. So if you start with quarters, how many quarters do we need? If we have 6 quarters, we have $1.50. That's too high. So if you have 5 quarters, we have $1.25. If we add dimes, we get $1.35, $1.45. So that's 2 dimes, and then we end up with pennies. So we have 45, 46, 47, 48. So we have 3 pennies. So we have 5 plus 2 plus 3. What is that? 7. We have 10 coins altogether. And so column A ends up being 10, and it gave us column B being 9. So column A wins here. So the answer would be A. Let me just make sure this is still on your screen. Yes, it is. Oh, yeah, it's a giant school. I think it's the largest school in the country. There's like 5,300 kids now there or something like that. Really insane. When I went, there was just under 5,000 kids, and it was berserk at that point. And doing something like going from the basement up to the gym on the 8th floor was an experience in and of itself. But it's just amazing. Does the test get more difficult each year? It fluctuates back and forth. I believe it was harder when I took the test. They're trying to make it follow the curriculum closer, and I think that's a mistake. I think they should back off of that. There's too many people complaining about the specialized high schools. When I went, there was also only Brooklyn Tech, Bronx Science, and Stuyvesant. Now there's 5 more choices. There was always LaGuardia as well. So, but LaGuardia is not a test school; it's an additional school. So it bounces back and forth. They remove sections and replace it by easier sections, and then sometimes they bounce it back and forth. They tried to make some things easier in the past 3 or 4 years. I think it backfired on them. So, yeah, and the Discovery program gives another shot for disadvantaged kids. Basically, kids who are really have gone to horrible schools and who are financially strapped. Severely financially strapped. So those kids get another shot. So wasn't there Bard? Not sure what you're talking about. Bard's not a specialized high school, although Bard is a good school. There's 2 Bards. There's one in Queens and one in Manhattan. They're both good schools. Yeah, by the way, guys, there's a plethora of good schools. There's the 8 specialized high schools plus LaGuardia. There's another 40, 50 schools that are really great schools. There's Townsend Harris. There's the 2 Bards. There's Beacon. There's Baccalaureate. There's Midwood in Brooklyn. There's a ton of them. There's lots of good schools all over the place. Most are screened. So so when I say there's 50, you may not be able to get into 50 of them, because some are by district only. So if some only take Queens residents, then you can't get a shot at that if you live in Brooklyn and so on. But there's a couple in each borough that are really top schools. And let's see what they do with all this political stuff going on with the specialized high schools. So all right, so let's get back to the questions. We're doing question number 21 at this point. So we're going to compare 9 plus 16, the square root of that, versus the square root of 9 plus the square root of 16. So I'm just going to speak this one. I don't have to write it down. 9 plus 16 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. And column B looks like it's the same problem as column A, but it's actually different. We have the square root of 9, which is 3, plus the square root of 16, which is 4. So we have 3 plus 4 is 7. So we have 5 versus 7. So 21 turns out to be B then. Okay, and then we have 22. Do you guys have any question about that one? Yeah, you're looking for the largest number, guys, not the smallest number. Bard used to be a specialized high school. No, that's not true. There was originally 3, Bronx Science, Brooklyn Tech, and Stuyvesant. Then there were 5 more added. Bard was never a specialized high school. Did I go to any prep? No. When I went to the school, nobody did prep at the time. Prep is a new concept. What happened is around 2005, when President Bush was the president, I believe the son, not the father, but though it could be the father, I can't remember the whole chronology to it. There was the No Child Left Behind Act, and in order to get funding on that, you basically had to give a standardized test. So that's when standardized tests started happening. So, and then it all just went to hell from that point. Everybody got so psyched into passing standardized tests for the whole country, not just in New York City, that everybody has standardized test fever, and part of standardized test fever is you have to prep for it. Used to not be the case, but basically ever since then, because federal money was tied to it, and a whole bunch of circularity happened. So now it's pretty much so that everybody needs to do it, because if you don't do it, you're at a disadvantage. So let me make this comment, though, that if you study on your own, you are at a disadvantage. And at some point, I'm a tutor, so I'm biased. I charge for tutoring. This I like to do is just kind of a little give back to everybody. I would suggest at some point, if it's not now, when you get closer to the test, to actually hire a tutor for a minimum of 3 sessions for an hour and a half each, minimum, so that somebody can observe you and figure out where your strengths and the weaknesses are. Because you may figure it out and your family may figure it out, but to actually have an expert looking over your shoulder and helping with the problems and crawling in your head and trying to give you advice, especially about how to pace the test and which section to do first and all this other kind of stuff like that. It depends on the kid, depends on what you're specialized in. It even depends on what you're interested in doing. So I would suggest that even people who do it on their own, at some point hire a tutor to look over their shoulders and crawl on their head and figure it out. Okay? All right, let me get back to this problem. So we have two examples that look the same. Column A, if we use PEMDAS, parenthesis, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, we're going to end up doing the 3 to the 4th first, because exponents come above things like subtraction. Because minus 3 to the 4 is really 0 minus 3/4. So if we look at it that way, 3 to the 4, we have it's 81. We get 81 and we apply the minus to it, so we get minus 81. In the case of column D, we still apply PEMDAS, so we do the exponent on the whole parenthesized expression. The parenthesized expression is the minus 3. So we do minus 3 times minus 3 and we get 9. And then we do 9 times minus 3 and get minus 27. And we do minus 27 times minus 3 and we get 81 positive. So we get minus 81 versus positive 81. So B rules on number 22. Yeah, I'm sure you meant 81, Alicia, so that's okay. Okay, 23. Let me see if that's going to fit in the screen because I have the thing showing there. I'm not sure it is. Let me move it out of the way. I can put this here then. Yes, I can. Okay, 23 says the original price of a bicycle is $100. So column A represents the amount saved after a 20% discount, and column B represents the amount saved after two separate discounts of 10% and 10%. Now this question comes up in a lot of standardized tests. It normally doesn't take this exact form. It takes a slightly different form. In fact, I think I already covered this question in part 2 of all these things, this mini series I'm doing right now. I have like 40 or 50 videos up already. This is a series that's just going to go till I finish the last question of this particular middle. This is the middle range test of the ISEE for grades 7 and 8. All right, so this really comes down to column A is talking about 20%, and column B is talking about 10%, and then 10%. So the question is are those both the same? Do we add the 10 and 10 and get 20, or do we do something different? So what we're going to do is, if we get 1/5 of 100 for column A, because 20% is the same as if we simplify it, 20 over 100 is the same as 1 over 5. So 1/5 of $100 in column A gives us $20. Okay, the amount saved by two separate discounts of $10. So 10% of $100 is $10. So that gives us $90 now. And if we applied 10% again, we're getting $9. So 10 plus 9 for column B is 19, where column A is 20. So 23 would be A. Okay, 24. 24 is a cute one again. What are you guys talking about? The DREAM program? I mean, that's really what they did? Wow, you should complain. That's really not fair. Really not fair at all. Well, a lot of these questions are confusing. That's one reason to start doing the review. And that's one reason why I'm kind of backing off the tough questions for the moment. All right, so to get from Springfield to Wakefield, Mr. Swift can take back road for 20 miles at an average speed of 40 miles per hour. He can also take the high road for 25 miles at an average speed of 50 miles per hour. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking 40 miles per hour. If they drove for 40 miles, it would take an hour. So if they did 20, it took them half an hour to do the first part. On the same note, if they went 50 miles per hour, and if they went for an hour, it would be 50 miles. So if they went 25 miles, which is half of that, they went from a half an hour. So it turns out to go both directions or both ways, it was half an hour. So that's what it's asking the average time it took to go the one way and the average time, so they're equal. So in this case, the answer would be C. Again, the SHSAT doesn't use the style of questioning, but this is an answer where it would be C, where they're both equal. Which problem are at 24? So they would both take half an hour. So that's choice C, which means they're both equal. Remember, if you go back to the instructions at the top of the page, C said the two quantities are equal. Okay, so go here. Okay, 25. The slope of this versus the slope of that. So how do we address that? So for column A, what do we do to get the slope there? If we have 4x minus 2y equals 10. Well, we need to get this into y equals mx plus b form, where m becomes the slope then. So there's a few ways to do this. I'm going to add 2y to both sides. So I get 4x equals 10 plus 2y. And then I can subtract 10 from both sides. So I get 4x minus 10 equals 2y. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to get 2x minus 5 equals y. So 2 is our slope here for column A. Okay, for column B, we have 2 points. We have 4, 4, and 2, 8. So when we have 2 coordinates, the slope equals the rise over the run. The rise is the difference between the y's over the difference between the x's. Sorry, my handwriting is atrocious here. So what we're going to have is, we're going to do subtraction. It doesn't really matter which order. If you subtract this way, then subtract the x's this way. And you subtract the y's this way, subtract the x's this way. Okay, so whichever way you go, it'll be consistent. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You can have 8 minus 4, right? The bottom one minus the top. So we have 2 minus 4 over 2 minus 4. That's plus 2 minus 4. So we get 4 over minus 2, right? Which becomes minus 2. Or we could have done it the other way. We could have done 4 minus 8 over 4 minus 2. And we get minus 4 over 2, and we still get minus 2. So what we have is column B. Column A, we got 2. And in column B, we get minus 2. So A is the larger one. Okay. This slope kind of question comes up all the time. So it takes a whole bunch of different forms. These are 2 of the different forms. Again, you won't be asked this kind of question in the SHSAT form, but you still need to know how to compute the slope given different forms of it. So, okay, 25. Let's go to 26. Let me see if this is showing on the screen properly. Yeah, you can still read 26 there. All right, so to predict how 2 groups of people would vote on a proposal, samples of each group were surveyed to see how they would vote yes or no on the proposal. The percent of each sample surveyed and the number of yes or no responses are shown in the table. So we have 2 groups. Parents' percent of group survey in A is 25%, and B it was 50%. The number of yes votes were 18 versus 20, and the number of no's were 7 versus 20. So the results above can be used to predict how many people will vote for and how many people will vote against the proposal. So column A is going to represent the number of people who voted yes in group A. So how many people would that be? And column B is going to predict the number of people who voted yes in group B. How many people would that be? $26. This one is really about reading the problem correctly. It's really not hard mathematically. All right. Like I said, you guys, please like, subscribe, share. And I'm probably going to end this after this question anyway then, because I was actually planning to only do the stream for about an hour, and we're going an hour and a half. And I'll continue it in the morning. So you guys can go, and I'll just answer this question. Basically, the answer is, since A represents 25%, so it's a quarter of all the responses. So it'll be 18 times 4, we get 36, we get 72, right? And column B is 50%. So we end up getting 40 because it's 20 plus 20. So column A would be the greater one. All right. Hopefully everybody has a good evening. It's already late, so I'm pooped. It's hot. It's a tedious summer day. So hopefully everybody has an enjoyable weekend. Yeah, I'm going to pass out myself. All right, guys, I'm going to stream again in the morning, sometime after 9:15, sometime within a half an hour of that time. All right, everybody have a good night, and peace out, everybody.